So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guest speaker. It's Laura Sheets from Savannah River. She'll explain what Savannah River does. It's a rather unique organization, and how she's addressed this problem of integrating manual and automated procedures. So, come on up. I'll give you control.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Laura Sheets. I work at the Savannah River site. We are part of the United States Nuclear Weapons Complex. We're located in Aiken, South Carolina, which is right across the Savannah River from Augusta, Georgia. For those of you who are golf fans, you know that's the home of the Masters. The Savannah River site, being a nuclear facility, has its conduct of operations roots in the nuclear navy. The operators are in charge of the safe operation of the plant, and the control system aids the operators, not the other way around. Everything at the site is done per procedure. Now, I have a procedure of my own that I've been doing. It's a 5-step procedure. I've done it nearly every day for the past 40+ years, and that's washing my hair. Wet it down, shampoo it, rinse it, condition, rinse. Well, the problem is sometimes I get to singing and I forget, did I just rinse out the shampoo or the conditioner? So this subject somehow came up at our lunch table at work, and when the guys took pity on me, he said, "Don't worry, Laura, don't feel bad. I don't even use conditioner, and sometimes I can't remember, did I just wet my hair or rinse the shampoo out?" So no matter if you have, how simple your procedure is and how long you've been doing it, people are pretty bad at placekeeping. So the consequences for me, I probably spent a lot of money on conditioner over the years and had some bad hair days. But for your plant, what kinds of problems do you have with your product quality because of problems with placekeeping? I've worked at that Savannah River site since 1988, and I've also been a gardener for nearly that long. I enjoy nowadays with Pinterest, I like looking at pictures of gardens on other people's boards in Pinterest, and I've made a couple of pins of my own. And I have actually been looking at other people's boards and going, "Oh, that's beautiful." And then I go, "Wait a second, that's my yard." So I have come to consider myself now an accomplished gardener. But even as such, I'll be out there working and decide that, I need another tool. So I'll head back towards the garage and maybe wave hello to my neighbor across the street. And I'll get there and I'll be looking at this. This is my very own tool rack, and I'll be like, okay, what am I here for? I've forgotten the tool that I was coming to get. So then I have to go back to my job site to see that, oh, there's a plant with a tag on it, and I actually just wanted a pair of scissors, and that was it. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who has experienced doing a job and being inefficient in it in some manner. Probably all of us could look into this mirror and tell a story about the person who's being reflected, how they made a mistake while performing a task, or later on figured out how they could have been more efficient in doing a job. My daughter is college age. She decided that she was going to take her friends on a vacation, and on her way back from the trip, she ended up with a flat tire. And she pulled the car over to the side of the road, and she said that her friends were like, "What are you doing?" And she said to me, "I couldn't believe it, Mama. They didn't even realize that we had a flat tire." And I said, she's like, "Can you believe that?" I said, "Yeah, sure I can believe that." I said, "You were the one who was driving. You were responsible for getting everybody there safely. The passengers, they didn't really even know what was going on." I said, "It's the same way where I work. Our operators, they're the ones that are the drivers. They are responsible for the safe operation of the plant. The control system helps them, but the operators are the ones that are in charge." Okay, so this is the actual apple of my eye. And when she, my daughter, when she had that flat tire, she said that she looked around at her 3 girlfriends that were in the car with her to see which one of them was going to help her change that flat. And she saw 3 people looking at their phones, finding the number for AAA. So she was like, "Okay, I'll just wait for AAA." But then, a cop showed up and advised her, said, "There are cars all up and down I-95 waiting for AAA. If you want to get home anytime soon, you better go ahead and change that tire yourself." And he said that he would help her. And in the end, she said he did help her in a minor way, but she ended up hurting her back, hauling that spare tire out of the trunk all by herself. So, even competent people like reliable help. This is the tritium extraction facility. It was a greenfield project that I worked on several years ago. My manager during this project was Jin Gurham. I know a few of you know him. He has recently retired. Jin came to the United States as a teenager, but when you speak to him, he sounds like a Southern gentleman. Okay, he was a member of the U.S. military, and he was really a driving and patriotic leader. When we were building this facility, he made sure that we each had an American flag for our desk so that we would remember why we were there, the defense of our nation. So Jin, he kind of looked out for me as far as if he had a good project, he always brought me along. So I never wanted to disappoint him. And he always stressed 2 things to me. 1, operations is your customer. Do what you can to help operations. And 2, improve the process by using automation. Now, I grew up in New York, and when my parents would come to me with something important that they wanted me to do, I would respond like, "Okay, Ma," or "Yes, Dad." But where I live in the South, the children are trained to say, "Yes, ma'am," and "Yes, sir." Now, when I talked to Jen, even though I wasn't trained in that manner, sometimes it seemed more natural to me to speak in the Southern way. Well, Jen came to me with something that was very important to him. He had this vision of electronic procedures. That's what we called it. He wanted to take the paper procedures that the operators used, basically throw out the pen, throw out the paper, and put those procedures on the operator console. Then the operator would command the procedures by clicking the mouse, and the control system would mainly be performing the tasks. So Jen called me into his office one day, and he said, "Laura, these electronic procedures, they are very important to operations, and I need you to lead this effort." So, of course, my response to him was, "Yes, sir." Now, if people are sitting there doing nothing, they're going to tend to fall asleep. If a person is doing the same thing over and over and over again, they get bored, they tend to fall asleep. The concept is that we want the operators to be driving the process. We don't want them asleep. We want them to be engaged. So here's the procedure that they were used to on paper. I'll zoom in on this area. Okay, so you can read it there. Select the product tank to be transferred. Now here's that same procedure on the operator's console. Select the product tank to be transferred. The operators were very comfortable with this transition because it was like almost identical. So what we needed to do as these procedure developers is to decide the right blend of manual and automatic. So is the operator going to command the step, or is the automation? Is the operator going to perform the action, or is the automation? Similarly with the verification. So when we started this effort, it was very important for us to have it as a team effort, not just with my group's process control engineers, but also with operations and the engineers that we call the design authority. They're the ones that understand the process and really know all about the safety boundaries. What we needed to do was set up our goals for what we're trying to accomplish in the process and our milestones, and then determine how much of those goals were going to be accomplished by the basic process control system, including interlocks, and what was going to be done per procedure. Then we took the equipment and divided it up into units or groups. And what seemed to really work the best for us was that those units or the groups would be nearly completely automated. And then we would have the procedures set the units or the groups into certain states, and then maybe that would be done per procedure. And then maybe we'd have valves that link, that are part of the line that link up the different groups, and the valves would get set per procedure also. So here's the pump trains that we had for one piece of equipment. And we had 2 trains with a swing pump in the middle. And initially, we were going to group that all together as just like one unit. But then it was really important for the operator to understand the state of the plant at all times. And then we were looking at this scenario where, well, what if one of the pump trains goes down and then we have to replace it with the swing pump? And that whole transition, how are we going to keep the operator aware of what state we're at? And it got so complicated that we decided it was better just to break it up like that. And then that ended up working out as far as also being able to just reuse those procedure steps. Okay, so here's my artist rendition of a process graphic that uses those pump groups. Okay, and we have 2 valves on there, 401 and 402. And then another artist rendition of what the procedure would look like on the operator interface. So the first step that we have there, ensure valve 401 is open. The operator would go ahead and, whenever ready, click the execute button, and then look over at the process graphic and verify that they see, yes, valve 401 actually opened up. Then you can see that that step has a time stamp, the one that was just completed, and whenever the operator is ready, the operator can click the execute button again and check the result. Now valve 402 is open. And finally, the last step is to ensure that the pump group is on. So when ready, click execute, and then again check the result and see that your whole path is now completely open and everything's on. So the good thing about this mixture of manual and automatic is that you don't have to automate everything all at once. So if you have equipment that doesn't have the feedback and you need to do some things manually, that's fine. You could do it manually. And you can also add over time. Now, if any of you in this room helped to bring me GPS technology, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I get lost so easily. If I were to go on a business trip by myself before GPS technology, I'd have like a 2-turn rule from the hotel to the restaurant. I wouldn't go more than 2 turns because I would get lost and I would never find my way back to the hotel until late at night. So I had this business trip set up to go to California. I had never been to California, and I always wanted to go there. I got a GPS, and I couldn't believe it. I was able to go everywhere. Okay, this is me in California. I'm like calling my friends and my family. I got my foot in the Pacific Ocean. I was so happy. I'm in Hollywood, baby. I was thrilled. Okay, similarly, the operators really appreciate having the electronic assistance where they get the step-by-step guidance that carries them through the procedure. And also, the automation to help them with all that heavy lifting, So we've had these electronic procedures in our plant for a long time now, and operations considers them just indispensable. Okay, so the benefits, they can be used to compensate for limitations of human nature. And you just need to determine the right blend of manual and automatic. And then keep the operator engaged, and you'll increase both quality and efficiency. When I worked on the TEF project, as I mentioned, I had a team of people, and one of my team members, Chris, he's here, right here in the blue shirt. He was a big part of the reason why I never let Jen down. He's very knowledgeable on procedures and all things process control. So if you would like further information, stop by and talk to Chris. And I can answer any questions when I'm on the panel. Thanks.